with you some easy, family-friendly meals that are end of summer into fall inspired recipes. Some of these can be put together in less than 30 minutes, and they are something that I felt my family enjoyed, that use the produce from the season and are just very simple and wholesome. So let's jump into the recipes. All right, the first evening we had some tilapia with roasted tomatoes on top, basil, mozzarella, and risotto. So I've kind of gotten into making risotto with some long grain wheat, whole wheat rice, I guess you'd say, or whole grain rice, not whole wheat. And I made up some risotto to go with this tilapia. It was so delicious. So I just got these tilapias from either Costco or Walmart, and I've been trying to incorporate more fish into our family's diet. We have a daughter who is allergic to shellfish, and we used to eat shrimp and scallops and things like that all the time, but we no longer do just because of that. So other fish are still fine. But with this tilapia, I just put oil in the pan, put the tilapia in, let it cook on both sides for like 5 minutes, season it with salt and pepper, put a tomato, our cherry tomatoes from our garden are still prevalent, tomatoes in there, some balsamic vinegar and some maple syrup, and then mozzarella pieces and fresh basil from the garden. So that was super simple. That took 15 minutes to make. The risotto, on the other hand, did take a little bit longer because I cooked it in the oven after I sauteed my onion and garlic, and then put in my chicken stock in there, or you could use vegetable broth, or you could even use water and just make sure to season it well with salt. But then the risotto bakes in the oven for about 60 to 70 minutes. But oh, it's so good. Creamy and delicious. You add about a cup of, then I just use like a white sharp cheddar. You can use Parmesan. You could probably put mozzarella in. Actually I used feta this time, I think, because that's what I had on hand. So seriously, just whatever you have on hand. A delicious meal that is just hearty, wholesome, and healthy. Okay, let's move on to the next meal. Very simple roasted vegetables on a pan with some deer backstrap. So you're gonna see I use deer a couple times in this video because it is coming up to the deer hunting season here in November. So I'm trying to use up some of our deer in our freezer that we have. My husband is a hunter, and so he shot a deer last year. We had some processed into ring bologna and jerky and things like that, but then we processed some ourselves. So we have this deer backstrap that I thought would be delicious to make up. So I honestly just Googled the recipe because I wasn't sure how to cook the deer, but it was tender, and my oldest kept asking for seconds, and she's 4.5 on the deer. So roasted veggies, I just used broccoli, I used some fresh garden carrots, fresh potatoes, fresh onions, and garlic. We had those as the side, and our starch, of course, was the potatoes because I didn't need like a rice or another starch to go with it. So that was just super simple. Drizzle an oil over it, olive or avocado oil, salt and pepper. You could put garlic on it. You could put an Italian seasoning, put rosemary on it, whatever your heart desires. Bake for 30 minutes, about 400 degrees. Delicious side, especially like if you have squashes, you could start using butternut squash to put in there, your root vegetables like I did. But then also that deer backstrap I just did on the stovetop. I put some salt and pepper on it on both sides initially, and then I just cooked it on both sides, and oh, it was so good. It had a little pink still on the inside. You could serve it with a barbecue sauce, you could serve it plain, you could find a sauce to make up. But it was a very delicious deer backstrap, and I'd never made it before, so that was fun to try that. All right, the next night is our breakfast for supper night. But I wanted to do a stuffed acorn squash. This is a celebration squash is what it's called. And so I just used some pork, ground pork. You could do ground beef. You could omit the meat if you didn't want it, with garlic, onion. I think every good recipe has to start with garlic and onion. And then I cooked up the squash first. Just cut it in half upside down on a pan at like 375 for 40 minutes until I could stab a fork into it and it was soft. Let that cool, the squash cool a little bit. scraped it all out, mixed it with my meat mixture, and then put that back in the squash to bake with some cheese on top. And so that was just a delicious, that was probably, there were like 2 sides because we had waffles then with it, some sourdough discard waffles, and we have waffles probably once a month, if not twice a month. So we did the waffles with it. I made some cinnamon whipped cream to go on top. The waffle recipe is from Farmhouse on Boone, so I use a lot of her sourdough recipes if you didn't know that already. But I would say that squash was something I would definitely do again. The highlight of the squash was the green apple I put into it. The green apple was fresh from a friend's tree, so that was a delicious sweetness to add in there with that garlic, like that sweet and savory together was just so delicious. So that was our 3rd meal. Then our 4th, we went to I thought we were going to an outdoor picnic. So I was gonna do ring bologna, deer ring bologna, and sauerkraut in a crock pot, very German-esque meal. We live in a very Dutch community, and so I thought this would go over well. And it did, because I actually ended up bringing that again for the actual night of the picnic. I was wrong on the days. But so I made that for my family anyways, with a 7-layer salad, but I didn't have everything for the 7-layer salad. So I kind of just made up this 7-layer salad to fit what I had. So anyways, the deer bologna, I just cut it into pieces and then put the sauerkraut in the crock pot for like 3 hours on low. And that was so good and delicious. It's just something we enjoy as a family. And then with the salad, it was just lettuce. We usually have like bacon, red onion. I didn't have the red onion. Peas, you could put celery in it. I didn't have that either. And then I made like a mayo dressing, and you can use Greek yogurt instead. You could use some sour cream and mayo and mix that together with apple cider vinegar, plain vinegar, salt and pepper, a sweetener of your choice. I used honey. So just making that kind of a creamy salad, and it's one I love bringing to potlucks, this 7-layer salad, and everybody always asks for it. Usually you have hardwoods, eggs in it. I forgot that too, but it's okay. No, sometimes your meals are just what you have and what you make do with. I do have to mention, these first 4 recipes, we had low stock in our fridge. So I hadn't done some grocery shopping in a couple weeks. So I was just kind of using what we had, food from the garden. And I think that's the way to go. Just use things you have on hand, use fresh produce that's in season. So that was our 4th evening. And then Friday evening, my husband was gone, which is our 5th meal. And we always do pizza, whether it be store-bought from Aldi or whether it be sourdough pizza that I make actually most of the time. We only have store-bought pizza about once a month. So I made it in my cast iron skillet this time, and it's just sourdough discard. You dump into your preheated cast iron pan, or if you have a pizza pan, I have that too, a pizza stone. And then you put your sauce on it, your toppings. I used a Annie's barbecue sauce. It was so good because it's a lower sugar barbecue sauce. And then I used goat cheese and mozzarella on top of, we had extra pork left that I'd used from a couple nights ago, and sauteed red peppers that I had from the garden and put that on, and my girls and I enjoyed that with that leftover side salad. So truly, I'm not one to throw away sides and leftovers, and I reuse. I'll cook extra meat, for instance, to have for another night. I think that's the way to make things easier and more efficient as a homemaker. Just repurpose some items, eat the leftovers, cook enough one night so you have enough for another meal throughout the next night. So those are our 5 weeknight meals that we had. A lot of these, like I said, can be put together in less than 30 minutes. The bologna and sauerkraut was a 10-second meal, literally. You just throw it in the crock pot and it's all good to go. Sauerkraut you could make yourself, of course, but I did buy that too. So those are the 5 meals I have to share with you, and I hope you are able to eat what's in season, eat what you have in your pantry, in your fridge. You don't need to go buy all this fancy extra spices and seasonings to have a delicious, wholesome meal for your family to eat. Well, definitely check out the description for recipes if you're interested, and get cooking in your kitchen today. All right, talk with you guys in the next one.